As crocheters, we all have our quirky little habits that we secretly do, but never want to admit out loud. Whether it's sneaking more yarn into the house, promising ourselves that we will finish all of our whips, but yet we keep starting new projects, or crocheting past our bedtimes. Yep, I see you. We've all been there. So today we're counting down 28 weird little things that most of us crocheters do, and get ready to nod your head in agreement and maybe feel just a little called out. And trust me, you are not alone in these crochet confessions. And if you want to play along, keep track of your score, and at the end, share your total in the comment section below so that we can all know how many weird little things you do as a crocheter. This first one, I do this all the time. You're sitting there crocheting and you're having a deep conversation with someone about maybe something serious or something that they're really interested in, and you are crocheting away, but actually you are counting stitches and you're thinking about the pattern and the yarn and you realize 5 minutes later, I have no idea what that person just said. I definitely do that one. I'm gonna keep track of my own score. This next one, I bet most of us can relate to, and that is hiding yarn purchases from loved ones. I have been guilty of that before, but I do have a very supportive husband who knows that I'm just going to buy yarn here and there, and he supports my habit at this point, thankfully, but it's been under the radar. If he were to ask, I would have told him, but if he's not asking, I'm not telling. I used to be so guilty of this next one, and that is crocheting past your bedtime. I cannot tell you how many times that I would think, one more round, just one more row, and then I'll be done. And then you look up and it is 1 o'clock in the morning and you're like, wait, how did that happen? But I think most of us crocheters can relate to that at some point or another, when you just either you wanted to finish the project or you just had that one more row mentality, which never is just one more row. I am totally guilty of this next one, and that is scoping out people in public who are wearing crochet. Anytime that I see somebody out in public and they're wearing a crocheted hat, a scarf, a beautiful crocheted cardigan, I cannot help myself, but I find an excuse to talk to them. And then I just bring up the conversation. Oh, did you make that hat? I did that in the grocery store not that long ago. I just couldn't help myself. I saw this woman and I knew it was a crocheted hat and I wanted to know, did she make it or not? And she had, and we just started talking about crochet and it was really fun. I am guilty of this one. Now for this next one, I know that many of you do this. I do it too, so let's all just admit that we do this, and that is starting new crochet projects when our old ones aren't finished yet. I don't know why I do this to myself, and I know that there are some of you who love starting new crochet projects and it keeps things fresh and interesting, and you love to have multiple whips going on at the same time, and then there are those of us who really don't enjoy doing that and it stresses us out, but yet we find ourselves doing it over and over and over again. I'm starting a new crochet project today. I have several that I need to finish, but I can't help myself. You probably didn't notice, but I'm wearing a new pair of glasses. I got these from Pear Eyewear, and they offer 10 different base style frames for men and for women, and you can get fashion glasses without a prescription, or you can get prescription lenses like I have. Plus, they have 5 different frame styles for kids. What is so fun about these glasses is that I can change the color of my frame to match my style for the day. So right now I am wearing black, so I have these Kirby frames in black, but I also got 3 different toppers. Now they're chocolate. How fun is that? But I also got tortoise. How cute is that? But you can also make your glasses into sunglasses. Pear Eyewear glasses start at $60, and that includes prescription lenses. Plus, you'll find hundreds of toppers between $25 and $35 so that you can change the style of your glasses with just one click. One thing that I love is that for every pair of glasses purchased with Pear Eyewear, they donate a pair of glasses to a child in a developing country, and I think that that is so amazing. And make sure to get 10% off your next purchase at Pear Eyewear using the code Elise Rose Crochet 10. Thank you so much to Pear Eyewear for sponsoring today's video. If you're an introvert like me, You might recognize this scenario. Someone invites you to a social engagement, but you use crochet as an excuse not to go. For example, "Hi, we're having a barbecue. Would you guys like to come over?" "Oh, we would love to come, but unfortunately, I have a crochet project deadline and I just don't think I'm going to be able to make it. But thank you so much for inviting us." I don't do that a lot, but yeah, I've done it. I've done that before. Next is that you binge watch TV shows with the excuse just to crochet. You tell yourself you're going to watch this new series on Netflix or on Hulu, but really you're just gathering up your crochet supplies to sit down on the couch and you're just going to crochet for hours and you end up not even paying attention to the TV show. I have definitely done that before. Now, this next one is one that I have never been guilty of, but I know some of you guys have definitely done this. And this is when crocheters buy patterns and you say that you're going to follow the pattern, but you're just going to freestyle it anyway. I'm the kind of person that is going to follow the pattern to a T. I am a color inside the lines kind of a gal, and so when I buy a pattern, I'm going to make it exactly the way it is written. But I know so many of you who are super creative and you want to follow the pattern, but you can't help yourself. You discover different and more interesting ways to make that pattern, and so you change it up, and in the end, it probably doesn't even look like what you started with. I think a lot of you out there are just like that, and I think it's a really wonderful thing. I would bet money that over 90% of the people watching this video have done this next one, and that is buying yarn without a project in mind. You just see a beautiful skein of yarn and you're like, oh, I need to have that, and I'm definitely going to make a beautiful project with it someday. And then it just sits in your stash and you forget, why did I buy this? You have no idea, you have no plan, and you probably don't even remember how the skein of yarn got into your stash, but yet it sits there and may never get used. I am definitely guilty of this next one, and that is having a crochet hook hoard. I'm like a dragon who has their hoard of gold, but mine is just crochet hooks. I don't know why I love them. I just want them. I like having all kinds of different ones, but yet I use one. I rarely venture off to using different crochet hooks. I have them in different sizes, but I never use them. I only use really 1 or 2 crochet hooks. I don't know what it is about crochet hooks that are so irresistible to me, but yet I don't use them. So I'm definitely guilty of this one. This next one is something that I definitely struggle with, and that's getting emotionally attached to projects. I get emotionally attached to all kinds of inanimate objects anyway, so it's no wonder that I feel this way about crochet. But typically I have to go into a project in my mind that this is for someone else so that I can detach and have that separation, because otherwise, as you can see in my craft room, that once I make something, I find it very difficult to let it go unless I begin the project with that in mind. But I think a lot of us crocheters feel that way, that we put so much love and our heart and our blood and sweat and tears, well, hopefully not any blood, but we put so much of ourselves into our crochet projects that in the end, it's really, really hard to give them up. And I admire those of you who are so generous with your crochet and you just give it away and you donate it and you gift it to family and friends. I have to really love somebody to give them a crocheted item. I have to love you with all of my heart, soul, and I know that you're going to love whatever I give you, because otherwise I just have such a hard time parting with it. This next one is not something that I personally struggle with, and I'll tell you why, but it's crocheters competing with knitters. So on the outside, you tell people, oh, crochet and knitting are both awesome, but secretly deep down, you think that crocheting is superior to knitting. And I think that there definitely are some people like that out there. I don't personally feel that way just because I'm a crocheter and I'm a knitter, and I love both of them so much, and I like each one for different projects because I could not live without my granny squares. I love them so much, but I also just finished a beautiful knitted shawl and I love it so much. So I do personally think that crochet and knitting are equal and they are both amazing. But I know that there are crocheters who think that crochet is superior, and the opposite is also true. There are knitters who think that knitting is superior to crochet. But I think that if you're both a crocheter and a knitter, I would imagine that you probably think that they are both equal, but they both have strengths with different projects. Now this next one is one that I have never struggled with, and that's for those of you who are so in the zone with your crocheting that you forget to eat. I am not the kind of girl who ever forgets to eat. My stomach lets me know, and I always obey my stomach. My stomach says it's time to eat, it's time to eat. But I can imagine that if you are so in the zone and you are so excited about your project and lunch rolls around, or dinner, or that snack before you go to bed, and you are just going and you forget to eat, and then you realize hours later that you're starving because you've just been crocheting for hours. This next one, I have to admit, I've done this before, and that's wearing your crochet out in public to fish for compliments. If I'm wearing anything crocheted out in public, I definitely want other people to notice it, and I want them to ask about it, compliment me on it, fuss over me. I'll even tell my husband, I want you to fuss over me. Just tell me how pretty it is. I don't even care if he really means it. I just want to hear it. So I think that that's totally natural. We put so much into our crochet items that when we do bring them out in public, we just want to feel seen. We want people to notice us, and we want people to tell us how beautiful it is. This next one is something that I am definitely guilty of, and that's trying to convince people to learn how to crochet. I can't tell you how many times I have tried to convince people that they need to learn how to crochet, that it's the most amazing thing, even when they have politely been like, no, that's okay, I don't think I would like it. You should learn how to crochet.
No.
And then I will go on and on about how wonderful it is and how much joy it's going to bring into their lives and how much they're going to love it, and think about all the squishy yarn that they could have, and think about all the beautiful handmade projects, and people are looking at me like, will you please be quiet? And I just keep going on and on and on. So I should probably get double points for that one, because I can't tell you how many times I've tried to convince people who are not interested that they should learn how to crochet. I think a lot of us will relate to this next one, and that is being on alert for yarn sales. I don't know any crocheters who don't love a yarn sale. There is nothing more exciting than finding out that your local yarn shop or your favorite brand of yarn at Michael's or Joann's is on sale, and you get in that car and you go immediately. And I will tell you that happened to me recently. Our local yarn shop was switching ownership, and they put every single skein of yarn in the entire store on sale for 40% off. And you know what I did? The minute that I saw that post on Facebook, I got myself dressed and I drove myself right over there. I was so excited, and I came home with a good amount of beautiful yarn from a local yarn store. Now, this wasn't cheap yarn, and this is not the kind of yarn that I would normally buy, but at 40% off, I could not say no, and I have no regrets. I have a feeling a lot of us are going to relate to this one, and that's when you choose a quick crochet project, but then you find yourself 4 months later still working on that project that was really only supposed to take a couple of days. That has happened to me more times than I can count, but I blame it on my squirrel brain. It usually isn't the fault of the project, it's that I squirrel and I get distracted by something else, and I cannot tell you how many times that has happened to me. So don't feel bad if you're like that, because I'm the exact same way. This next one, I've done this before, and that is when a crocheter avoids frogging a mistake, and you just keep going, and you just keep crocheting, even though You should have frogged that mistake the minute that it happened. Maybe you noticed it a row or two, and then you keep thinking, oh, it'll be okay, and you just keep crocheting and crocheting until you finally realize 10 rows later that you really should have frogged that mistake right at that moment. You should have ripped it out, yet you were stubborn, and you just couldn't bring yourself to frog all of that work. I have been there, done that. This next one is that as crocheters, sometimes we buy patterns and we never use them. I have several notebooks full of crochet patterns that I have purchased. I have books of crochet patterns that I have purchased. And to be completely honest, I would have to live 7 lifetimes to be able to crochet all the things that I was planning on crocheting. This one is probably the one that I am the most guilty of, because I get really excited and I come up with all of these ideas and I find these patterns and I purchase these books and I think, oh, I'm going to make that. This is going on my list. I'm definitely going to make that. And 3 months later, I've completely forgotten about it, or I've changed my mind, or I've moved on to the new things that I want to make. And the list just keeps growing and growing and growing. And I've accepted it. I think almost every single one of us can relate to this next one, and that is crocheting in weird public places. I have crocheted everywhere, basically. I bring projects with me if I'm in the doctor's office, if I'm at the DMV. I will bring a crochet project because I cannot stand to not be able to use my hands. I can't stand it. It makes me nuts to have to sit in a place and not have something to do with my hands. Now, the one place that I can't crochet is the car. And that kind of makes me sad because we go on road trips, we travel around, we drive places, and I would love to be able to sit and crochet in the car. Now, I have heard about these motion sickness glasses that I think I'm going to try, because that could really be a game changer for me, because I'm one of those kinds of people who I get motion sick extremely easily. So I really am envious of those of you who can sit there and crochet in the car, but I will crochet in every other place. I think a lot of crocheters will relate to this next one, and that is turning everything in your mind into a crochet project. Now, I especially do this if I'm at somewhere like Walmart or Target and I am just browsing up and down the aisles and something catches my eye, like a cute little keychain or a little toy or a pillow, and I'll think, I could crochet that. I could do that. And I think that's what happens when you've been crocheting long enough. Your brain literally starts to change and you start looking at different objects and wondering, I wonder how I could crochet that. How could I do that? This next one I have done so many times that now I am the exact opposite, and that is underestimating how much yarn you need for a project. I used to do this a lot, and I would get into a really bad place because I would run out of yarn for a project, and you know those pesky dye lots? Just because it says it's the same color, if it's a different dye lot, they're slightly different, and you're working on the project and you're like, this doesn't match. So now I actually do the opposite, and I probably go overboard and I buy a little bit too much extra because I am terrified that I'm going to run out. I think a lot of us can relate to this, but now I have the opposite problem. This next one happens to me especially when I go on vacation, and that's bringing too many crochet projects and then not working on any of them. When we go out of town or go on vacation, I pretty much always bring an extra suitcase, and that is for my crochet project so that I can put my yarn, all my notions, all the things that I'm going to need, because in my mind, I believe that I'm going to be the best version of myself on vacation. I am going to do all the crocheting. I'm going to do all the exercising. I'm going to eat the healthiest. I am going to be the best version of me on vacation. And by the end of the week, I realize that I haven't even opened my little suitcase full of yarn, and I go home and I have made no progress. Has that ever happened to you? This next one is something that I am so guilty of, and that is working on a crochet project during a movie that I really wanted to watch. And we all know what happens. We all know that we start off and we're paying attention to the movie, and we're very engaged, and then about halfway through we're sort of still engaged. We kind of have lost the plot line a little bit. We're not sure who that new character is. We haven't totally watched, but we can't ask our family members and say, who is that? Because they're going to get annoyed, because they're going to say, put your crochet project down. And you're thinking, I'm not putting this crochet project down. No way, no how. And by the end of the movie, you're just nodding along when your family's like, wasn't that amazing? Did you see that twist coming at the end? And you're like, oh no, I definitely didn't. Loved the movie. It was fantastic. But by the end, you have no clue what happened. This one also has to do with TV or movies, and that's judging how long a project makes based on the amount of time you watched TV or watched a movie. So you might say, oh, that sleeve took me 2 Friends episodes or something like that. And I definitely do that, especially with the amigurumi toys. I'll think, okay, I could probably get that body done while we're watching How I Met Your Mother. That is my son's current favorite sitcom TV show, and we are watching that, and I'll think, okay, we're gonna watch 2 episodes and I could get the body done and maybe one of the legs. I think a lot of crocheters are going to resonate with this next one, and that is having a favorite crochet hook and judging all the other ones. And the reason why I think most crocheters will relate to this is that when we have a crochet hook that we love, we secretly or not so secretly think that the other ones aren't as good, and we want to share that. So I get a lot of comments on my YouTube videos about crochet hooks and how this one is superior, how this one is the best, and that's because our crochet hooks are an extension of our own hands, and they fit perfectly, and we have tried so many different ones, and once we find the one that we love, we think everybody should love it too. Your favorite crochet hook is such a personal matter, and I know that when you feel so excited about it and you feel so confident in your choice, you just want everyone to know about it. This next one is definitely one that I have done a time or two, and I bet many of you have done this as well, and that is to creatively correct mistakes. How many times have you been working on a pattern and you're off by 1 or 2 stitches in your stitch count, and you think, you know what, instead of frogging that work, I'm just going to fudge it, and I am just going to either decrease or increase on the next couple of rows. That way, I don't have to redo this whole thing. I think most of us can relate to that. This next one is something that actually I have thought a lot about, and that's crocheters on dream retreats. This is my dream crochet vacation. Let me set the scene for you. Now, we're not going somewhere warm and tropical. No. We're going somewhere a little bit chilly, a little bit cool, a little bit rusticy, and we're going to pack some yarn, but we're not going to need too much because we're going to a place that is going to have all of these sheep, and there's going to be these beautiful, quaint little yarn shops all over the place. We'll visit hand dyers to see the techniques. Maybe we'll take a workshop or 2, and then in the evenings we'll come back, have a fabulous meal, stitch together, laugh together, and then go to sleep, and then start the day over again. And would that not be the most fun thing ever? I would love to do that. Maybe just me. Is it just me? Is that just me? Or do other people dream about crochet vacations too? I scored 26, and now I want to know what your score was. So make sure to leave them in the comment section, and also let us know if there are any other little strange quirks that you think most crocheters do, and leave them in the comment section as well.